Coming up, have WWE cancelled some huge WrestleMania plans for next year? Because they certainly cancelled a pay-per-view this year. More on the real reason for that. And did Bray Wyatt have heat backstage before he was let go? All that and more in today's WrestleTalk news, so make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all of the latest from between the ropes and around the ropes. And even further away from the ropes, and even further than that. We're zooming out, it's like the end of a Ubisoft trailer.
Support WrestleTalk!
So here's the thing, you know TLC, the pay-per-view that was scheduled for December this year? Yeah, that might not be taking place after all. Because Dave Meltzer is reporting on Wrestling Observer Radio that the event, which was set to take place in Chicago, won't be happening now. He said the decision was made that originally there was going to be a pay-per-view in Chicago at the Allstate Arena in mid-December, and the feeling is now that doing 12 a year and the December pay-per-view will actually be January 1st in Atlanta. The idea of doing January 1st rather than do mid-late December, and then they're still going to do Royal Rumble as the January pay-per-view. Now, Fightful Select are reporting that the plan to hold no pay-per-view in December was made over a month ago. And WWE sources also confirmed that TLC was scrapped in order to concentrate on the January 1st WWE Day 1 event, an idea that's being spearheaded by Nick Khan. So that means that come January, we're potentially going to have two pay-per-view level events, with the new year kicking off with Day 1 and then the Royal Rumble closing out the month. If WWE just shoved that back a few days, the people who were doing dry January could, celebrate that too. Now, of all the shocking things WWE do, perhaps this year's most shocking was the decision to let Bray Wyatt go during the seemingly never-ending cuts a few months back. Because Wyatt was a fan-favourite performer who got a lot of TV time and was a mainstay in the main event scene since returning with The Fiend, and was a mainstay with these cinematic matches during the pandemic era. So it was strange that he would be given the old heave-ho, and now perhaps shedding some light on this situ though is a bit of reporting from Andrew Zarian of the Mat Men podcast, which he says he got from the most legitimate person he could find and not from Bray. He said Bray was being difficult. He was a little difficult, he had some performance issues in the ring, and he had some weight issues. I'm not going to say that's the reason, but you can kind of piece things together as to the things. When you evaluate a talent and you're like, okay, we need this and we need that, and this is the plan moving forward, you need someone. Sometimes the decision is easier to make if you make it more difficult for them to make that decision. I think he meant it's more difficult for them to make that decision if you make it more difficult for them to make that decision. It's easier to make if you make it easier for them to make that decision. He also said there was a financial issue. There were plenty of other scenarios here. I don't think he was happy, and I would tell you that these decisions are not cut and dry. It's not like, oh, it was a money thing and that's it. Obviously, money is the excuse. While the weight thing and the in-ring performance thing sound like your bog standard WWE excuses that they then heap on top of the financial side to make it a bit easier to justify to themselves, this is one of the first reports of Bray being quote-unquote difficult during the closing stretch of his WWE run. But I mean, considering that the booking decisions surrounding his character were bonkers, I would have been more than a little difficult. I would have been an all-the-way pain in the ass, because Bray not only invented two separate interlinked characters, a whole mythology surrounding him and the Wyatt family and everything that he was doing, secrets, like a whole mask and a look and a character, and he got a song made. Meanwhile, King Corbin was a king because he had a crown. And now Shinsuke's King Nakamura because he also has a crown. I'm not saying anyone should be fired, I'm just saying that being a little bit difficult when you've made a lot of stuff is kind of obvious. Before we move on, we need to thank Shield Maiden, the Zornice, and the Cleaner, Kenny Shah, for their support on Patreon. Thank you so much. So there's obvious speculation about where Bray might end up now that his WWE career has come to a close, with many obviously saying the three magic letters of AEW, while others saying Impact might be a better fit for his style of character. Regardless, Tony Khan recently confirmed that he has not yet chatted business with Bray, whose real name is Wyndham Rotunda. But that doesn't mean that he isn't open to it, telling the New York Post, I really like Wyndham. I know him a little bit and I really enjoy him. The last time I saw him was at Chris Jericho's birthday party, and that was a long time ago. I like him as a person very much, and he's a really talented person. At the right time and place, sure, I'd be interested to talk to him. I'm interested to talk to him in general because he's a great person. Moving on, and we all know that the plan for the old Universal title picture has always been that The Rock is going to show up, he's going to challenge Roman Reigns, and they're going to have a match at WrestleMania, right? We've known that for absolutely ages, right? Right? Well, no, apparently getting one of the highest paid actors in the world to swing by is more difficult than previously thought, not least because of all the eggs in the chicken your catering department needs to buy. So originally, we all thought that Rocky would be showing up around Survivor Series time in order to start building to a match at WrestleMania 38 in Dallas. Well, plans are subject to change. And according to Andrew Zarian of the Mat Men podcast, who spoke to multiple sources in and out of the company, they have. He said, little update on The Rock. He is apparently in Australia during Survivor Series. Now, does that mean that he won't be doing something at Survivor Series? They're definitely going to mention it. They're definitely going to talk about it. There will be maybe a video appearance or something that's planned, but he's not gonna be there. Now, this not only sets back the plan for the Universal title picture at WrestleMania 38, but also, according to Zarian, has WWE rethinking the entire thing. He added, it really looks like the focus has shifted to moving a Roman Rock match to LA. I'll say it this way, there are people that are adamant that it needs to take place in Los Angeles. They're adamant. There are people that say, no, this match should not happen at Dallas. It should happen in LA. Now, WrestleMania 39 is going to be taking place in Los Angeles in 2023, which would mean cancelling the plans for this year and moving the entire thing back, which quite drastically changes the Universal title picture, as either Brock is going to be winning the belt at Crown Jewel next week, or someone else is going to have to rise up through the ranks and claim the title from Roman, but who that is isn't very clear with the emphatic victories that Reigns has had over the last year. There just isn't anyone ready. And this Roman Reigns problem harkens back to something that has plagued WWE for quite a while. They just aren't building that many young stars up to the main event level. And a new report from Wrestling Observer Radio reiterated this, saying that WWE officials are very much aware that they have a lot of 40-year-old superstars on the main roster and are in dire need of an influx of young blood, mostly to keep Vince McMahon alive, because he's like a vampire or the Space Marine Emperor. He needs blood to stay young. He needs blood to stay young. The report went on to say that this realization is the reason for the change in NXT and the move to the 2.0 style of the show. The idea being to get more wrestlers in their 20s ready for a WWE main roster run. Now, a quick rundown from Wrestling Inc. noted that 22 main roster stars are 40 or older. That's Asuka, Cesaro, Finn Balor, Kofi Kingston, Randy Orton, Shinsuke Nakamura, Shayna Baszler, The Miz, Dolph Ziggler, John Morrison, Sheamus, Tamina, AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, Titus O'Neil, Bobby Lashley, Robert Roode, Rey Mysterio, Shelton Benjamin, MVP, Edge, and R-Truth. Plus your part-timers like Brock, Cena, and Goldberg, all recently being in the mix. So the sooner that Bron Breakker is done cooking in NXT, the better. So what about Bron versus Von for WrestleMania 39? Am I right, lads? Am I bloody right? Also, the tit-for-tat war between WWE and AEW, which has spun out of 30 minutes of counter-programming tonight as Rampage and SmackDown go head-to-head for a very brief, small amount of time, has hotted up. Because Tony Khan has been firing some shots on Twitter and scheduling Bryan Danielson to take on Minoru Suzuki just for the lols, but he's also been hitting Vince where it hurts. His wallet. You never insult the size of a man's wallet, Tony. You never insult the size of a man's wallet. Speaking of the New York Post, Khan hyped up the importance of a bit of healthy competition and talked about the Wednesday night wars and the tendency for WWE to go ad-free back in those days, as well as their plan to do just that tonight with SmackDown. He said, we can take the commercials out of it. If you want to take the commercials out of it, I can do that too. It doesn't seem very civil, but I have more money than they do. So I can afford to do that longer than they can. But that's just how we make money at the end of the day, so I was surprised when they took those out. It's not the size of the wallet, Tony. It's not the size of the wallet, it's what you put in it. It's what you put it in. It's what you put. And in some final if it ain't broke, why not break it while fixing it news, Vince McMahon has reportedly ordered Cameron Grimes to undergo a character makeover. And not because he doesn't understand how a hillbilly could also be a millionaire, because a skit aired on this week's NXT where Grayson Waller gave Grimes dating tips including shaving his chest and trimming up his beard, because Vince's long-standing vendetta against body hair must continue. Don't let those tiny little bastards win. So apparently Grimes is going to undergo the makeover in the coming weeks, which is lame. And according to WrestlingNews.co, Vince's desire to change the presentation of his character was what stopped Grimes being called up to the main roster during the recent draft. That is absolute madness.
We're talking the huge Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 casting.
We'll be reacting to the Scream trailer.
Teasing our thoughts on Dune and more.
But first, the biggest news of the week. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 has cast its, I guess, antagonist, its villain?